Paul Lil Sutton.
La Lil Sutton.
Welcome to... Ooh.
Whose pussy is this? Hi.
What'd it do?
Yes! What'd it do? It's catching on. It's a thing.
Hey guys.
Welcome back.
We've got a bit of a heavy one today.
We're sitting here real professional like with our laptops.
Yes.
Because we're going to talk about abortions again.
Mm-hmm.
Stats and facts. Usually we talk a lot about sex, and that's always fun and entertaining for everybody. But we did promise we were going to do a part 2 of the abortion stories, and so this is it.
Yeah, and I think, yes, it's all good and fun to talk about sex, but it's also really important to talk about the consequences and also the repercussions of not practicing safe sex
and safe choices, and so we thought we'd get into it today.
We talked kind of about our personal experience, but we just kind of wanted to make this podcast just to give you a bit more information about what your options are if you just get to this point, because I feel like when we kind of fell pregnant, we just had no information. We didn't know where to go. We didn't know where to start.
I think, it's kind of like, it might be a little bit like, I guess, confronting for lots of people as well. But we want to definitely give you a lot of information so that no matter what your choices are or what you decide at that time, you're making the right choice for you, and you are really well informed, because hearing stuff from your doctor or from whoever is quite sterile. It's not really that compassionate, and we're going to try and give it to you in a way that comes with lots of love.
Well, let's kind of start with what unwanted pregnancy is. For me, it was just wrong person, wrong time. I wasn't financially stable.
Definitely. I think, unwanted pregnancy is obviously, it's when you fall pregnant, when you are maybe not quite ready or prepared for that to happen. Yeah. I was really young. I was 17, so obviously I wasn't old enough to have a child. Also, I was not really being very smart. I wasn't even on contraception. I'd gone off the pill for so long, and I hadn't actually received my period for 8 months. Received my period. Had it for here it is, Mother Nature. But I hadn't had my period for 8 months, and so I didn't even think I could get pregnant. I was very, very naive. So thank God I didn't have a child. My God. But so it's a pregnancy that you aren't prepared for, and you don't have the right resources around you.
It's about
to look after your child.
You're thinking about the optimal timing, and I think especially as women, we really think about our future a lot. We do. We think about getting married, we think about having a family, we think about having a nice house and being able to kind of set up your nest so perfectly for when you do have a child.
For a baby.
So when you fall pregnant, when you're outside of that circumstance, you kind of have to reevaluate. You're like, is this an option for me? Can I still make this happen? If it's not how I envisioned or how it was planned, and if it isn't, that's when you can start thinking about whether abortion is the ideal option for you. For sure. But if you do decide that was the option for you and this is the best choice for you, I think it's really good to know how it's kind of performed and what kind of options you have in terms of choosing, because there's 2 main types of abortion.
Well, actually, so I've got a little note here for you. So I'll just explain kind of what an abortion is in case you, for whatever reason, don't even know. So it's sometimes called a termination of pregnancy. Personally, I kind of prefer the word termination. I don't know why, but I feel like abortion is just it's kind of an ugly word. So anyway, it's sometimes called a termination of pregnancy, and this is when the pregnancy is interrupted. So the pregnancy is removed from the uterus, which is sometimes called the womb. There are different types of abortion procedures, and the one used depends on how long you've been pregnant. So at some stages of pregnancy, the woman has options to choose from. So most of the time they are performed within a really short window. I think it's within the first 15 weeks of pregnancy, because after that you kind of need to stretch the cervix and whatnot, but I'll go into them anyway. So One of them is called an early medical abortion, which is called an EMA. This type of abortion is like an early miscarriage. It can be done in the first 9 weeks of pregnancy. It requires 2 separate visits to take 2 medicines. The first medicine is called mifepristone, and it blocks a pregnancy hormone that is necessary for the pregnancy to continue. The second medicine, a prostaglandin, is taken 1 to 2 days later. This causes the uterus to expel the pregnancy, usually within 4 to 6 hours. There is a difference between the emergency contraceptive pill and the early medical abortion. So the emergency contraceptive pill you might want to take within 72 hours of having unprotected sex, and that will actually stop your pregnancy from occurring, or it's supposed to.
It prevents your next ovulation. So if you're ovulating when you take the pill, you'll still get pregnant, which is what happened to me.
Yeah. And then the early medical abortion medicines end a pregnancy that's already begun. So that one's not too common, I think. And also it actually sounds like it would be very horrifically awful.
I had a friend that did take that. Yeah. And it's kind of like it forces your body to have a miscarriage.
Yeah.
You have to...
Literally, that sounds awful.
You have to,
bleed.
Bleed, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's very physically and emotionally painful. It kind of makes that whole process more traumatizing, I would say.
Well, I think it would, yeah, because especially if you know about it, like lots of the time as well, when your period is late is actually an early miscarriage. Which is kind of freaky to think about. Like, we could have had tons of them in our lifetime and not even know about it. Maybe not tons, but
Which is why when it's like you have like this massive heavy period.
Yeah. So another type of abortion here is the surgical abortion, which you and I both have experienced. Yeah, so this is a vacuum, aspiration, or suction termination, and it's usually used between 7 to 15 weeks of pregnancy. I think most cases in New Zealand, you have to be at around the 12-week mark, because I guess that must just be when it's the best time to do it, and up to 15, which would be the latest time. But in saying that, it could happen within 7 weeks, but then I guess you could also get the early medical abortion, which is the miscarriage induced we just talked about. So with the surgical abortion, the woman is given either a local or general anesthetic. A small tube is inserted into the uterus via the vagina, and to remove the pregnancy by suction. It usually takes about 5 to 10 minutes, and she goes home on the same day. So that's what we've both experienced. It made me really sick, and I was super woozy, and like it wasn't that fun. Again, you also will bleed afterwards for about a week.
What's interesting is that you were gassed and I was under.
Yeah.
But we had our abortions so many years apart. So I don't know. You would probably have to talk to whoever you go, whether you go to like a private clinic or whether you go to like a hospital, about what your options are in terms of going under.
Well, I wonder if it's actually changed since then, because obviously this was well over 10 years ago for me, so maybe now they give you either local or general anesthetic.
Yeah.
Because when I get my IUD, they have to give me anesthetic for that because it's so painful. But yeah, the gas for me, that was,
because I was pretty lucky that I didn't feel that horrible when I came out, but I think because I had mine at 7 weeks.
Oh, okay.
So I called up the clinic when I was 6 weeks, and they told me that I had to wait another week to book.
Right.
So that it was within the legal time. And for the first 2 weeks after you have your abortion, you're also not allowed to have intercourse because there's risk of bacterial infection.
That's the same as after having a baby as well. You shouldn't have sex afterwards because, again, you can get infections. And then going forward, so later abortion procedures. So this is usually after 15 weeks. And so there's a medical abortion, which uses the same medicines as the early medical abortion, but the doses are stronger and it takes longer. And it's similar to having a later miscarriage, and the woman may need to stay in hospital overnight. That sounds super uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And then the final one is called a D&E, which is surgical dilation and evacuation. This is used after 15 weeks of pregnancy. The woman's cervix is gently stretched so that forceps and a suction tube can go into the uterus. It takes 10 to 20 minutes and it needs general anesthetic. The woman may need to stay in hospital overnight. Do you know what's insane is how quickly these all things can occur?
Yeah.
15, 20 minutes.
It's such a minor surgery.
Like, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah.
So, I don't know. That's crazy. Most of the time it's actually free here as well. But you can go through private clinics, which do cost money.
Which was mine. But you can, I don't know, in Australia at the time, you pay separately when you go to a private clinic, but you can claim it back on, I think, either health insurance or Medicare. I'm not quite sure what it's like in New Zealand, but that was an option for me. I think mine was like around $700.
Yeah, I think from what I remember of like people I do know who've had them privately, it's around about $1,200 here.
Yeah.
But this is just a little wee rant for the sexual health organisation in New Zealand in general. I really wish that there was something I could do to make it better, like as an individual person, because I feel like the public health system here is really, really slack, and it's not by any means I guess their fault, but it's really hard to get like these appointments and find out and do whatever. So when you can get a private termination, obviously it's a lot quicker, it's a lot smoother, and it happens for you way more privately. Like you don't go to so many places which you might see someone you went to high school with, which literally did actually happen to me.
Yeah, and I think it's also important to note that abortions can really affect a woman's fertility. So I don't know if we don't have any like specific stats or any specific information, but if you are having not readily, but like abortions quite frequently, maybe you're being careless with your contraception, it can have long-term effects on your ability to have a child in the future when you are ready to be a mother.
Yeah. There is a note here that just says it's very unlikely that an abortion will stop you from becoming pregnant in the future. However, the more that you use them, so if you were to use this as a form of contraception, like, please don't. But if you do, an abortion doesn't reduce your chances, but if your cervix gets damaged or there is evidence, you may have a very small increased risk of miscarriage if you get pregnant again. Also, I think as you get older as well, these things become a little bit of a higher risk because you're not as young, therefore your body doesn't quite recover in the same way. Like I think when you get pregnant over the age of 35, it's called a geriatric pregnancy.
Oh my gosh.
Which is actually just, I find that hilarious.
It just sounds weird.
Yeah, because a geriatric is someone who's probably like over the age of 60. But that's what it's called. Just a little
fun
fact about, this is why it's good to have a midwife as a mother. I learn random things.
Actually, something that one of our followers told us is that abortions in New Zealand has actually been decriminalised.
Yes, there was like recently a law passed, which is really exciting. Since our first abortion podcast, which is really cool.
Recently, it was really soon after, which is awesome timing. I don't know if I doubt that it's the same in Australia.
I don't know if the bill has actually passed into legislation yet, but I know that it's essentially becoming decriminalised and it's not going to be on the Crimes Act anymore, which is very exciting for women who get into these situations. And obviously we are not anti-life, we're pro-choice.
Yeah.
And we totally believe that you guys should make your own decisions 100% all the time.
Yeah, and I think coming from the perspective of people who obviously are pro-life, I guess the reasons, there's quite a few reasons, and that we kind of looked at this article and it's about the effects of abortion on crime, which kind of puts things into perspective of, I don't know, infants that do grow up that were out of unwanted pregnancies.
Yeah.
So there's this article about the legalization of abortion on crime. Oh,
yes, and crime.
And crime.
Yeah.
So basically, when abortion was first legalized in the States, I think it was in 1970, it was in 5 states, and in 1973, it was nationwide in the States. And what was crazy, about 18 to 20 years later, they saw this massive drop of crime and homicide rates, like 50%. Which is wild. And they kind of correlated it back to the legalization of abortion, because usually the peak crime rate for teenagers and young adults is between 18 and 24. So when these kind of abortions were put in place, so there were no more like significant amount of children that were no longer being brought up in single parent households,
yeah,
like welfare supported families, or just kind of like children that were brought up in families where they felt unwanted or felt resented in a way.
Yeah, because you would, I think, definitely, as a child being brought up in a household that was a single parent with a single income, and you would almost feel like a burden.
Yeah.
If you knew, especially, that your mother had you because she had to.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the effect of that there were less population of adults that kind of grew up in these circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
So as an effect, obviously, there was this massive drop in crime. So like just a quick fact, like they would have been 60% more likely to live in a single parent household, 50% more likely to live in poverty, 40% more likely to live in a household collecting welfare, and 40% more likely to die during the first year of life, which is wild numbers.
So crazy.
And I think it's also an effect on the women that were growing up, because they had their abortions. That meant that they would be able to like still go to school,
finish school,
be educated. So there was
go to work.
You know,
exactly. If you think about women who have children get sick all the time, they've got to take time off work. Like, if you don't have another income, or you don't have someone else to supplement that, or you don't have anyone to look after your child, it's really difficult. So hard. I mean, for sure, like, of course, it's not always that way, and you can't always. There may be, like, you get pregnant or something, and maybe you've had a couple of terminations already. It's definitely, there are reasons behind, you know, certain things, and whatever works for you, religion or family background or values and stuff like that. But more so, we just want you guys to be super educated when you're making these choices, and also much safer in your sexual endeavors.
Sexual health, yeah. I think it's also, we kind of touched on this before, is not to use abortion as a form of contraception. So really thinking about what contraception are you using to prevent pregnancy in the first place, instead of relying on this as a form.
A termination definitely, I feel like, is your real last resort, especially if you're having regular sex with a partner or multiple partners.
I think a discussion about contraception is so important. It's so imperative to have mutual responsibility when it comes to contraception, and not, honestly, as a man, to assume that the woman that you're sleeping with is on contraception.
How many men, though, just presume that you are?
All of them.
Every single one. Every single one. They don't even, like... I've probably been asked in the past about contraception, like, maybe a handful of times.
Yeah. I feel like men's version of asking for consent to come in you is, it's okay if I come.
Yeah.
Like, when they're about to reach, that's when they mention, oh, is this okay? No, it should be before you even fucking insert.
It should be before the vaginal session. See, look, that did come back to haunt me, but it works in this instance. No, but honestly, like, or when they just come anyway, and you're just like,
no.
Okay, cool. Thanks for that.
There was one time that it was a new sexual partner. I think this is the first time we had sex.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, I'm going to come. And I was like, okay. And he came in me. And I was like, and at this particular time, I had just finished my period, and I was about to go back on the pill. So I actually wasn't on contraception at this point in time. And I was like, lucky that I was like coming out of my period, because I guess I was less fertile, but still not completely protected at all. But like, don't assume that it's all good just to fucking come in me. And even if I am on protection, if I'm whatever, on IUD, on a pill or whatever, not every woman is okay with you coming inside them.
No, some women don't like it.
It's quite invasive.
It is. And also the drip, and then the
drip down the leg,
and then the cum run from the bed to the bathroom, and you're like, oh.
Or, you know, the worst was like, I was like,
they don't have to deal with that cleanup.
He finished while I was on my side, and I went to like catch the cum, because it was like dripping out of my pussy. And then, I don't know, in the motion of like moving my arm, I like flicked the cum into my face, and I was like,
oh my god, he would have loved that. I feel like he would have
just come in my face.
Well, you might as well have.
Might as well have.
No, come on like my titties, or like my back or my ass or something. That's fine.
But like, also help me clean up. Don't just fucking lie there and pass out and have a cum coma next to me while I'm cleaning up your cum.
Pass me the tissue or the rag at least. Come on.
Have some manners before you try to impregnate me.
No. Also, it's so bad. I don't know.
But how do you think that discussion should go in an ideal world?
A new sexual partner, I think it's really actually quite important for them to ask about condoms or using one, especially. They should also
just always have one.
Yeah. I mean, I have some. Oh my God, you know, it was really, really embarrassing. When I went to Europe a few years ago, my mum, went to the pharmacy and got me a bunch of things. And then there was this huge box of condoms on, that she'd given to me. And she was like, oh, you know, in case you plan on having sex over there. And I was like, ugh. I share everything with my mum pretty much, but don't buy me condoms. I was 27. Are you kidding me? I've got this, Mum. Thank you.
I can't remember the last time a guy brought out a condom or offered a condom or even suggested the use of it.
No, I've had a lot of conversations after the fact, and I'm like, bro, we didn't use a condom. And they're like, oh yeah, but it's all good. I'm clean. Are you?
Are you though?
Are you clean? I'm clean, but are you clean?
I remember I was fucking some guy that had a girlfriend, and he was like, babe, are you clean though? I have a girl. Because you know, if I had an STI, whatever, he would get caught, and I was like, oh, you have a girl? Is that why you're with me now? Fuck off.
What?
I'm clean. And also well, this is just me. I'm allergic to condoms and latex.
Yeah.
So condoms are just not an option for me. So that's why I always have to be on contraception. But still, sometimes I like to have a break from the pill just because.
I was actually talking to someone yesterday about how fucking amazing women are, because I've literally been on contraception for so long.
Yeah.
For literally more than half of my life, probably.
Yeah.
Fuck all these guys who've got no responsibility.
Who are fertile 365 days a year. 365.
It's so unfair.
It's so unfair.
Women are fucking amazing. We're incredible, you know?
We're fucking blessed.
In that instance, that's why some of them are allowed to be psychos.
You should fucking massage me every time you come in me as a thank you for fucking being on these hormones that fuck with my body, fuck with my mentality, and fuck with my fertility.
Mine isn't hormonal, but it's just annoying.
Yeah.
It's just annoying. It's another thing I have to think about. I already got to think about my hair and my face and going to the gym and looking money. Good. And that'll cost money. Plus contraception. Please.
Fucking ungrateful assholes. And you have the nerve to ask if I'm clean. Fuck off.
Yeah, or just to come inside me without even asking.
No.
More than once sometimes.
Yeah, I mean...
good that you can do for another round, but
I mean, when I don't do this often because I already know I'm protected. But, I think also when you first have a sexual partner, it's also nice just to have a chat about, what you do and don't like in bed as well.
Yeah.
Just so that you guys know each other's boundaries, because what might be rough to one person might be fucking unconsensual to another person.
Yeah, definitely. That's important about choosing sexual partners as well.
Yes.
I mean, yeah, there might be someone who's really fucking hot, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are right for you. You know, it's all very well and good to be sexually attracted to someone, but again, they might not be clean, or they might be a little bit more rough that isn't quite your cup of tea, or they could be someone who doesn't expect for you to have an abortion, or they have an expectation that you should have an abortion if you were to ever get pregnant, or whatever. They could have some kind of control. So I don't know.
Yeah,
it's hard to kind of find these things out about people, but we talk about this with red flags.
Yeah,
and you'll notice little behaviors in people that make you question what kind of human
intentions
they are.
And also it's actually something that you don't even think about until you've had an abortion, to be honest. I was really careless with my partners until I really fell pregnant and realized kind of the implications. But yeah, learn from our mistakes.
Learn from our mistakes, for sure.
Yeah, it's just, you have to consider the fact that no contraception is 100% besides abstinence. So if you choose to have sex, you actually with every person you sleep with, you have to consider the fact that this person could potentially be a baby daddy for you.
Yeah, that's fucked up. So make sure he's got a job.
He's got a job.
Also, another thing is there have been more than one occasion for me anyway where I've like had to go and get the emergency contraceptive pill after I've slept with someone, and this is when I've not been on contraception for whatever reason. There was a period which I just was like, fuck it, I don't want to be on it, and I wasn't, but then I had to be super careful. But I slept with 2 people who didn't give a fuck, and then I had to go and get the emergency contraceptive pill and pay for it. And you can get it for free here in New Zealand, but again, like I was saying before, with the public health system here, it's really quite difficult to get an appointment. So you cruise into the pharmacy, it's $50 fucking.
Yeah.
Are you having a laugh?
Just pull out. You could have saved me $50, man.
Yeah.
Dude, that's like 3 burger meals.
Still though,
fries and...
even pulling out isn't that effective. So I don't know, but like the point is, these men should have paid for that, but they didn't. So more money I've spent. Although that was my own bad. I should have made smarter choices there.
Yeah.
Again, learn from this.
Big dick energy, paying for my contraception.
Yes, but also I feel like there's a level of control in that.
Oh, like I do this for you, therefore.
Yeah, but I don't know. That's just a power play. It could be different. Like paying for the emergency contraceptive pill. Actually, you should just fucking do, because you're the one who came inside me.
Yeah, because you're lazy as fuck. Also, in light of this conversation, get checked regularly.
Yes, definitely.
Do your PAPs, do your blood tests, do your pee tests. I hate peeing in a cup.
Yeah, it's so I actually try and get a sexual health checkup like once or twice a year if I can. Again, it depends on this public health system and whatnot. But you know what's really cool as well now? So back in the day, you never used to be able to do this, but you can do your own swabs, and that's quite exciting. So it means you don't have to like fucking lay there with your legs in the air and have someone else swatching around for you.
But like it's like you have to scrape. Does that mean you have to scrape yourself? No,
you just like, it's like a super super long Q-tip. And you put it inside you and you have to like wiggle it around a little bit, and then you can pull it out and it snaps off, and they put it into this test tube, and it's great.
Amazing.
It's so much easier, even though the nurse or the doctor is like right there behind the curtain, but it's just kind of more comfortable. It's still a bit like icky, but
niggly.
So I've done that before, and that's quite good. And I always get my smears on time because I just freak out. Like
they're every 5 years now.
Yeah.
That's
One
crazy.
of my friends, actually, when I was a little bit younger, she actually had a cervical cancer scare, and so because of that I'm like super wary of it, because it can literally happen to anybody.
My sister had a scare too.
Also STIs, it's a touchy subject.
I've been lucky that I've been very careless because I can't use condoms, that I haven't had a STI.
Cannot say the same. I feel like it's a little bit awkward to actually have to share this, but I truly believe with sexual health you need to take responsibility for this kind of shit. And so I was unfortunate enough, this is a couple of years ago, and since then I've also been super strict and really careful. I picked up chlamydia from, I think I know who the person is, but at the time I was being pretty careless. And I was sleeping with him and maybe 1 or 2 other people
Love that
regularly. I mean, it was a good time for me. But unfortunately, I ended up with a really bad infection and I had to go to the hospital. It was so embarrassing. Like, it was the worst thing ever. And luckily for me, it's so easy to be treated. But still, I feel like you should really be really quite open to talking about it, because the reason why people don't tell other people this shit is because they're embarrassed.
They're embarrassed.
Like, I'm not dirty and I'm not gross. I picked that up from someone else, which is a shame. Anyway.
It's chance. We all do this shit. Most of us are sexually active. Most of us are careless from time to time.
And it is pretty embarrassing. I had to actually call people and tell them.
Yeah.
I was like, hey, you might want to get checked out. The guy that gave it to me, though, I'm going to get really bad karma for this. I never called him. I was like, fuck that guy, I'm not telling him, and I didn't.
Well, he would have figured it out.
I told other people, they went and got checked, it was all fine. So I think it's important, definitely to talk about it. I have never had it since, and
yeah, just so you know, she's clean and she's ready to go.
No,
so slide into the DMs.
As if they would now. No, but honestly, it's so important to do it. So I'm super anal about it as well because, like I said, it could actually happen to anyone. I even had a friend whose boyfriend gave her chlamydia when we were super, super young, and
That's cheating.
He tried to blame it on her, and she was like, "Nah, man, I haven't cheated on you." And he was fuck. I hated him so much. Anyway, so and she was a lovely girl, just like I am.
See.
So yeah, safe sex, super important. That is all. And scene.
But I think we will do another podcast where we go more in depth about options of contraception, taking care of the puss.
I'll put it on the puss. That's actually an inside joke, but you can get amongst it. Hashtag I'll put it on the puss.
Put it on the puss. Like, don't put it on God, put it on the puss.
Come on it, not in it. On the puss.
Yeah.
There you go. Just on it.
Smear it around.
All around it. Just
that makes me think of the porno I watched this morning, actually.
I wondered why you were in a good mood. Okay.
Fuck you. First of all, you're absolutely correct. I did masturbate this morning.
Oh, I spent all afternoon yesterday. Anyway, okay.
Same. But, you know, party don't stop.
No. I'll put it on the puss.
Yeah, so we'll do another podcast where we kind of talk about taking care of your favourite gal.
Yes, actually. We can also link you some products that'll keep your
pussy fresh.
Optimal.
That's how Kiwis say fresh, by the way.
Fresh. I don't say it like that. Fresh. Do they say it?
You said it like our friend. Fresh.
If I say it like you, fresh.
How did I say it when my accent was strong? Fresh.
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 Fresh. Oh my god, we do. Anyway, moving on. I actually think this is kind of cool. We've ended up with a really light-hearted conversation, and we still managed to talk about sex.
Don't put us in the room and not expect us to talk about sex.
Yeah.
You guys fucking love it though. What's our number one watched and listened to podcast? Best sex of your life. You guys fucking eat that shit up. Don't act like we're hoes. You fucking love it.
You love it. And living, the friends with benefits
You do. You love living vicariously through us. So don't act like you don't like the hoe shit. You love the hoe shit.
You love that shit.
Everyone's got a little hoe in them.
Also, if you've got anything that you want to chat to us about in this episode, like STIs, I'm not the only one, abortions, we got heaps of really cool messages from you guys. Totally get involved.
That's it.
Is that it?
That's us.
All right. Bye.
Deuces. That's it for this episode, fam. Thanks for listening.
If you have any questions, topics, or suggestions, you can DM us on Instagram. The link is in our bio.
And don't forget, whose pussy is this?
It's yours.
Deuces.
Bye.